isn't it rich that The View is saying she got the job based on looks when DEI is all about based on looks?
Like this young lady this is her first job. I would like her to do a little homework. She said there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help. They have mocked him, they have shamed him, they have lied about him consistently on their show. These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up.
Karoline Leavitt has just slammed the door on The View's last-minute plea to end her $800 million lawsuit. While the hosts desperately tried to soften their tone on live TV, Karoline isn't having it. She's not backing down, she's doubling down. Just weeks ago, Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin mocked her case, laughing it off as a political stunt. Now they're practically begging for mercy on air. But Karoline's response is loud and clear, too late. And with the timing hitting ABC harder than ever, the pressure behind the scenes is reaching a boiling point. Stick around, we're diving into the chaos unfolding inside ABC. But before we get into it, smash that like button and subscribe. For more stories the mainstream media won't show you. Done. Let's get into it.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role.
While the women, this wasn't just another day at The View. It was the calm before a legal storm no one saw coming. When Karoline Leavitt dropped her $800 million defamation lawsuit, the hosts responded with smirks, side eyes, and cheap laughs. Joy Behar shrugged it off as a publicity stunt, saying, "Just another conservative fishing for attention." Whoopi Goldberg rolled her eyes and muttered, "We've seen worse. It'll blow over." Even Sunny Hostin, their so-called legal expert, confidently told viewers, "This won't hold up. It's dead on arrival." But while the cameras rolled and the audience chuckled, Karoline wasn't chasing clout. She was gathering evidence. Quietly and methodically, her legal team went to work, pulling archived footage, show notes, producer emails, and behind-the-scenes communications. ABC thought this would vanish in the noise, but instead, their own words began surfacing. Damning. Messages from staff planning how to rattle Karoline on air, push her buttons, and exploit her live reactions. One Slack message read, "Make her stumble on the youth topic." Another, "Cue audience reactions when she hesitates." A handwritten note literally said, "Ask about Trump, she'll lose it." This wasn't a misstep caught in the moment. It was a premeditated media hit job. And now those same jokes that once drew laughs are being replayed in front of judges, attorneys, and crisis PR teams. Karoline didn't lash out online. She didn't start a rant thread. She simply passed the receipts to her lawyers and let the case do the talking.
Stop you with the camera, because I can see you. So do me a favor, don't pull it out again. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
When you're backed by the truth, there's no need to scream. Just sit tight and let the facts do the heavy lifting. That's exactly what Karoline Leavitt did, and the silence from her end spoke louder than any headline. Inside ABC, the mood shifted fast, from arrogant to anxious, then straight into all-out panic. Early in the week, executives brushed it off. "We've handled worse," one laughed during a Monday Zoom. But by Thursday, those laughs had vanished. Emergency meetings were underway, elite legal teams were being flown in, PR firms were put on hourly watch, and vacations got scrapped as the network scrambled for damage control. The $800 million lawsuit had officially become a PR inferno, and the real fire hadn't even started. Karoline's team hadn't launched Discovery yet, but ABC knew what that meant. Full transparency. Every email, every behind the scenes conversation, every raw recording, nothing would be off limits. And that's when the panic hit. Internal warnings began to resurface. One leaked HR memo from months earlier raised flags. Interviews with younger conservative guests feel hostile, borderline targeted. Another note read, "There's a consistent pattern of engineered tension. Unclear if this stems from editorial direction or personal bias." This wasn't just bad optics anymore. It was proof the network ignored red flags. And now, it's all coming back to bite.
Democrats in the media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt.
These weren't just scattered notes, they were red flags, and ABC ignored every single one. As the reality set in, the panic trickled down through the ranks. Interns who once sat quietly in planning rooms were suddenly being questioned about what they overheard. Junior producers started dialing attorneys. Some staffers rushed to delete old messages, while others began cleaning out group chats, desperate to cover their tracks. And through it all, Karoline Leavitt's camp remained completely silent. No statements, no media blitz, just quiet, calculated control, and the kind of silence that rattles a company to its core. One executive reportedly confided to a colleague, "It feels like she's already won, and we're just waiting for the verdict."
These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up.
Karoline's silence was deafening, and it was working. ABC's internal teams kept asking for updates, but executives had nothing reassuring to offer. Every day brought a new threat, every hour exposed a fresh leak. Legal floated the idea of a quiet settlement, but PR immediately pushed back. Cutting a check would scream guilt, and even worse, what if Karoline flat out rejected it? This wasn't just a legal dispute anymore. It had turned into an all-out war, and the network was losing ground fast. By the time the hosts were fully looped in, the damage was already done. They had laughed at Karoline on air, dismissed her lawsuit off camera. Now they were watching the entire foundation of their show start to crumble. Whoopi Goldberg didn't enter the meeting calmly. She stormed in, still in makeup with a towel in hand, visibly furious. "We're actually considering settling with her?" she snapped. Execs tried to explain. The emails, the raw footage, the real risk that one producer cracking under pressure could open the floodgates to a full-blown media disaster. Whoopi wasn't buying it. "We're turning her into a martyr," she barked. "If we pay her off, Twitter's going to explode." Joy Behar jumped in too. "We built this show," she fumed. "We carried this network through election chaos and scandals, and now we fold over one lawsuit." The room went quiet. All eyes turned to Sunny Hostin, the legal mind in the room. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even look up. She simply slid the lawsuit across the table and said quietly, "She has enough to take us to court. And if this becomes public, it's not just about us. It's about the whole network." Whoopi's expression froze. "You're saying we should apologize?" she asked. Sunny didn't respond. She didn't need to. They all knew the truth. And that truth was the scariest part of all.
Conflating two ideas, this word wokeness didn't look like she really understood what it meant, or certainly the way Karoline Leavitt meant it when she made that statement, and she was conflating it with civil rights and how, women didn't have the right to vote or own property and all of that. That has nothing to do with wokeness, which is, of course, about putting people in there because of their immutable characteristics rather than the merit that they bring to the table.
The jokes were gone. The smirks vanished. What replaced them was pure desperation. And yet, Karoline Leavitt still didn't say a word. No tweet, no press conference, not even a vague Instagram post. Her team issued just one chilling statement: "We are proceeding as planned." And with that, the message was clear. This wasn't about dialogue or negotiation. This was about accountability. While The View scrambled to repair their public image, Karoline remained silent, letting their panic speak volumes. The hosts tried to soften their tone, but audiences saw right through it. This wasn't remorse. It was damage control, and America noticed. Within minutes of the episode airing, social media exploded. Clips comparing last week's mockery to this week's nervous backpedaling went viral. One tweet read, "If you weren't guilty, you wouldn't be begging." Another said, "That's not humility, that's fear." Hashtags like "Sure Karoline was right," "A View meltdown," and "Receipts don't lie" dominated Twitter. TikTok creators analyzed the shift frame by frame. YouTubers uploaded deep dive breakdowns exposing contradictions in Whoopi's tone. Even meme pages went savage. One showed Whoopi beside a sinking ship with the caption, "Captain goes down with the View." Another had Joy Behar clutching a legal binder, eyes wide, with the words, "When the roast turns into a deposition." It wasn't just mockery, it was a media reckoning. Fox News and right-leaning outlets ran full segments praising Karoline's poise, while even neutral and center-left voices acknowledged the bigger issue: truth matters. And through it all, Karoline didn't utter a single word. No victory lap, no smug posts. She simply let the internet and the facts do the talking. Every moment The View tried to contain the fire, Karoline gained more support, more credibility, more momentum. In the end, her silence spoke louder than their entire broadcast.
Attacking a woman for her looks or age isn't very progressive. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Garda. Kosha, particularly that last clip that we played, it was so condescending. The way that she was scolding her as if she was a schoolgirl, suggesting she needed to do her homework. I find it so hypocritical when these so-called, caring, progressive voices just turn so nasty like that.
Yes, and as you mentioned, with conservative women, there's a long list of that, both of Trump's previous press secretaries, females, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Kayleigh McEnany, other figures like his campaign manager the first time, Kellyanne Conway, Sarah Palin very famously had to bear the brunt of a lot of this. So people are used to that. I think in their bubble of the audience that The View speaks to, that's probably kind of what the group think is. So one defense, I guess, is that she was speaking to her audience, but you take it outside of that bubble the way you are right now, and we all can.
And everyone was waiting for Karoline Leavitt to make her next move. A press tour, a headline interview, maybe even a viral post. But she didn't flinch. No grandstanding, no camera time, no theatrics. Her team stayed locked in, zero distractions, refusing to take the bait. While the media hunted for sound bites, Karoline's focus was razor sharp. Evidence was being logged, tapes reviewed, witnesses interviewed. And behind the scenes, the message was unmistakable. This wasn't about clout, it was about justice. The legal files were bulletproof. Testimonies were piling up, every offhand joke, every flippant email, every planning note scribbled in sarcasm. All of it was now part of a meticulously built timeline. Karoline wasn't chasing headlines, she was building a case.
Check this.
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit of, well, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing. Because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt she went to St. Anselm College. She worked for WMUR
Ran
TV
for Congress?
in New Hampshire. She ran for Congress at the age of 25, put on a very good campaign. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever. And did a terrific job.
Karoline wasn't doing this out of spite. She was doing it because she was done with the double standards, done being mocked on air and silenced behind the scenes, done with performative apologies and fake outrage. She'd seen this play out too many times, but this time she had the platform and the power to fight back, and she wasn't wasting a second. Some called her brave, others called her tactical, but most people just called her right. No yelling, no drama, just quiet, relentless progress. Meanwhile, The View was unraveling fast. Inside ABC, chaos reigned. Emergency meetings twice a day, advertisers pulling out quietly, staffers updating resumes behind closed doors. Leaked internal memos showed subject lines like reputational, risk escalation, and contingency strategy. View. Some execs were pitching a total rebrand. Others were blunt. Maybe it was time to pull the plug entirely, because this wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It had become a brand implosion. Legal, emotional, cultural, and historic. For years, The View branded itself as the voice of truth in daytime TV. Bold, unfiltered, fearless. But now, the curtain had been pulled back, and audiences saw something else entirely. They saw the prep, the scripting, the carefully staged chaos. What once looked like spontaneous conversation now felt rehearsed. What used to pass as—
They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him, they have shamed him, they have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up. They just paid $15 million to President Trump's future library. That's a great thing for the American people.
Divisive and disgusting speech because we believe in putting America first.
It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex and all of this other BS, quite.
And Karoline, she wasn't backing down. She wasn't chasing airtime, begging for apologies, or looking for sympathy. She stood firm, calm, clear, and unshakably focused, because this wasn't about money anymore. It was about truth. It was about setting the record straight, and as the dust settled, millions of Americans weren't just watching her, they were standing with her.
If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on Right. That's what you hear. Yeah. When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say, they talk at you, not to you. And that's what she was doing. And she was doing it, and it's not new. Mm-hmm. No. But everybody's hip to you all now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Cause you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail. Like this young lady this is her first job. I would like her to do a little homework. Mm-hmm. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh yeah. Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. Yeah. Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted.
What comes next could rewrite the rule book, not just for talk shows, but for media giants everywhere. For too long, personalities and networks crossed lines without consequence. But Karoline, she didn't flinch. She stood tall, and now the storm she started is still gaining force. So now it's your turn. Did The View finally go too far? Is Karoline right to take a stand? Should media platforms be held legally accountable for what they broadcast? Sound off in the comments. Smash that like button if you believe truth matters more than spin, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next jaw-dropping twist in this unfolding showdown. Karoline Leavitt didn't just file a lawsuit, she may have just changed media history, and something tells us she's only getting started.